My name is Tina, and I'm the operations manager at Website Design Kingston. We're members of the Kingston Chamber of Commerce. Thank you for joining me for our member exchange today. The topic for today is ethical web development, a little bit about what that means and how that impacts business and companies today, and how that involves AI. AI is a very hot topic right now, so it's something that I wanted to focus on. A lot of people ask me that question: how is AI impacting my business and the work that I do? So that's what I'll be talking about today. What is ethical web development? Ethical web development is the practice of building websites in a way that is conscientious of the impacts of technology on both the environment and people's well-being. What this means is respecting users and their privacy, being upfront and honest with the purpose of the website, and using clear calls to action that are not misleading regarding input or costs for the user. The main question is, it's not, can I build this? It's also, should I build this? So that's our topic today. Our first approach is limiting the use of AI. Artificial intelligence is a helpful tool that can and is used to bring efficiency and support to our workloads. But we are aware of the fact that it can be overused easily. Some problems with relying too much on AI are: it can be biased depending on the data that it learned from and the person who's requesting that data. Content starts to feel generic or repetitive. They often pull from the same sources and therefore can produce the same results. It can be wrong. We all know this. We've all experienced this. So sources should always be checked. AI and answer engines will usually have reference links. I encourage you to check them out. And an over-reliance can lead to a lapse in quality assurance and best practices. This is true for both developers and designers, so we want to make sure we still have that human touch. Here's a better way to use AI. Treat AI like an assistant, not as a replacement. Always check the sources, as I said, before making references. And be honest if any kind of work is AI generated, whether that's written content, graphic design, or code. It can do any of those three, and it's getting better at blending in with human-created content. So try not to rely on it for important decisions without having some sort of human input. Why the human touch still matters. This is a big one. Even with all the tools that we have, humans still contribute in ways AI can't and may never. Humans add creativity, empathy, judgment, and cultural awareness. What they bring are original ideas rather than copies. AI is good at simulating originality, but we know it's actually pulling from other source materials. Empathy meaning understanding how users feel and think. This may be something that AI never truly understands. I've read a few articles indicating that it's not all that great at judgment calls, knowing what's right or wrong in tricky situations, and of course, avoiding potentially offensive content. Having that human filter in there is very important. AI, of course, can increase the speed of deliverables, but I don't think it will replace the human thinking and emotion anytime soon. I was curious and I wanted more statistics on the topic. So this next slide is about comparing efficacy and performance between AI-generated content and human-generated content. And what I found right away was the data speaks for itself. Studies that have included more than 600,000 articles across a wide range of websites showed the following stats. Human-written articles generated almost 5.5 times more traffic than AI-written articles. AI content ranked 23% lower on average, acquired 61% fewer backlinks, and experienced almost 3.5 higher de-indexation risk. I'm going to explain what those things mean. So when I'm talking about the content ranking, I'm talking about ranking in search. So all of these can be summarized as my SEO findings. So 23% lower than human-generated content in the search engine results page, or SERPs. When I say it required 61% fewer backlinks, backlinks are a huge part of SEO. What this means is other websites or social media or news outlets are referring back to your article. So 61 is a pretty high percentage that human created articles were far superior to the AI created articles. What de-indexation means, so all web pages are indexed to be displayed in a search engine results page, such as a Google search. De-indexation means it has been flagged for some reason, usually because of copied content. So it makes sense that when AI pulls from other articles, that it may be flagged as a copied content and not original content. So having that high risk of being removed from Google Index is a big problem. When users were polled, only 14% of the respondents believed that the AI content quality was better than the human content. This, of course, could change over time, but as of right now, it's just not making the cut. Two of the biggest tools that we use in SEO, in search engine optimization, are Ahrefs and SEMrush. And both of them state to 81% top ranking pages are a mix of AI and human content, not 100% one or the other. SEMrush says that the #1 ranking position, the very first result, the very first search answer that is clicked most of the time, is not AI content. And we know that as you go down the list in the search engine results, the chances of being clicked drop exponentially. So being in that #1 spot is a really, really good place to be. So by avoiding using AI content, you can make sure that you have a higher chance of being in that spot. Oh, yes. Remember, one of the biggest thing in SEO, and I've also been asked about GEO and AEO. What they stand for is search engine optimization, answer engine optimization, and generative engine optimization. So the three differences are the answer engine would be when you ask, say, Google, and Google answers in a sentence. That's the answer engine. Generative usually refers to an AI companion like Copilot or ChatGPT. The best ways to optimize your content is to remember EEAT, and those stand for experience, expertise, authoritativeness, and trustworthiness. And those are 4 points where I think human is still going to produce higher quality content in those 4 criteria over an artificial intelligence. Next, we come to privacy and user data. This topic is a huge concern right now. It's something that I believe developers need to be taking more seriously. And not just developers, but also hosting companies, business owners. This is a big topic. And so I encourage you to take a moment to investigate the privacy and the security of your data. What we should be doing, only collecting data that we actually need. A website shouldn't be asking for information that it doesn't require. Contact forms rarely require someone's physical address. Be clear about what you're collecting and why. If you're collecting their address, let them know why. Because I'm delivering you a product. That's usually a really good reason. Letting users control their data. Can they remove their data at some point if they decide that they don't want to be on your website anymore? And keeping stored data secure. There's no reason that any website shouldn't be secured with the HTTPS, that little lock icon at the top of your browser. There's no reason. We're at a time where their SSL certificates are readily available and they're affordable and they're often automatically installed. So please protect your data. What to avoid? Sneaky tracking. So often it might be suggested that you put no follow tags on your links, for instance. Confusing consent forms. Be sure that your calls to action and user experience are clear and simple. Test them on people. It's usually the best way to see. Avoid selling user data without clear permission. I think that's an obvious one, but we know what happens. And one thing many people don't know, remember that US privacy laws are not the same as Canadian. I am often encouraging my clients to host in a Canadian environment because our data privacy laws are a lot stricter than those at the other side of the border. And if your data ever crosses the border, they don't have to respect those laws. So take a look and find out where you're hosted. It's important. Another big topic right now is accessibility and inclusion. Websites should work for everyone, not just a specific group. Important considerations: making your site usable for people with disabilities, following accessibility guidelines like WCAG compliance, and considering different devices, languages, and different levels of usability when you're creating your website. So in the province of Ontario, we know that we have AODA, Accessibility for the Ontarians with Disabilities Act. There are certain compliance rules that some companies fall under and other companies don't. Some things to consider is the number of employees that your business has, or if you receive any kind of government funding. So if you're not sure, reach out to us or check with your operations managers to see if your website by law needs to be AODA compliant. Here's some examples of accessibility on your website. Adding alternate text to images. You can see this image here. It's essentially describing the picture for someone who might not be able to see it. Using legible colors and high contrasts. I see a lot of websites still today that don't have a high enough contrast to be able to tell, for instance, when there's a clickable link, or reading text that's over top of an image. Those are some problems that I still see on websites today. Another big one is making sure that users can navigate with keyboard input. So there might be a situation where someone can't use a mouse and they have to give verbal directions. And a similar simulation to that is by testing keyboard navigation on your computer. So an accessible website will use these 3 rules and more. A big thing these days is being honest and transparent. Visitors and site users should know what's happening behind the scenes when they're using a website. Some good practices: clearly differentiating ads versus actual content or free versus paid content. Being honest about features, especially when using AI features. Have clearly defined paid content walls and include privacy policies that are easy to find. The most common place to find the privacy policy is in the footer of a website. Check the footer of your website and see if you have a privacy policy there. The next thing, check when it was last updated, because things may have changed. Things to avoid: dark patterns like hiding unsubscribe buttons. That's not nice. Misleading buttons or layouts. Make sure it's a good user experience. And forcing visitors into subscriptions or submitting data. This one's actually getting pretty popular. I know that it's a marketing technique. Just be upfront about it. Another huge topic this year, especially, sustainability and performance. We know that even websites have an environmental impact, and sometimes people don't consider this. What we can do to mitigate that: keeping your site lightweight, efficient, and fast. Avoid using unnecessary heavy scripts or AI tools. Keep your website lean. Optimize the performance where possible. And also, people don't know that this is an option. Use hosting providers that have a low environmental impact. You can actually check online to see the environmental impact of your hosting provider. Finally, our responsibility as a developer. At the end of the day, it's developers who are responsible for what they create. They may have been asked by someone to create said thing, but they're the ones doing the work. This means considering how a feature affects the users, fixing any sort of feature if we think that they could cause any kind of harm, creating clarity to avoid misleading or confusing interactions, and avoid focusing on profit and skipping steps. If there's a step that you should be taking and the user should be experiencing it, or if there is something that you need to be upfront about, that should be happening. A lot of the times, it's the developer's responsibility to ask these questions and to propose ethical solutions. In the end, it's all about finding a balance between AI and humans. AI isn't bad or wrong, but we do need to find a balance. Some benefits of AI, as we know, production speed. They're a lot faster than humans. In particular, I like using them to gather data when I want to find out more about something. Repetitive tasks. Sometimes it can be a little bit tedious and mistakes can happen if a human is doing something really repetitive. AI can do those things with ease. And of course, data processing, same thing. If you want to know the answer, if you want to know the average, if you want to know the total, it can get that for you. Of course, we want the human touch, the creativity, the empathy, and making those difficult ethical decisions. My recommendation is using a hybrid model, using AI for the speed and efficiency, but have that layer of human quality control. AI and human together, the hybrid model, does seem to perform comparably to just human created content. Of course, always check the sources to add that level of credibility and originality to your content. What we want to do is create trust. In the end, the goal shouldn't be replacing humans, rather combining both human and AI input for a complete and cohesive product. To me, that's what ethical web development means. It's about remembering that there are real people behind every click. It's easy to focus on building something that works, but it's far more important to build something that's fair, that's honest, inclusive, secure, and responsible. Again, I'm Tina from Website Design Kingston. Thank you for joining me today for Member Exchange.